Hello and welcome back to a new video in this series. Before we start, I want to remind you about hitting the subscribe button. Today we will analyze the excellent skills in double poling of the greatest sprinter of all time, Johannes Høsflot Klæbo. In this video, we will put the main focus on his technique in higher speed, typical sprinting-like kind of technique. Detail number 1. Heel lift and fall. When sprinting, Klæbo has a quite extreme heel lift and fall in the upper body. The angle of his ankles and calves is quite similar to the angle of his upper body. When the upper body is leaning forward, he will also bend his legs at the same time, and the bending of the legs is quite extreme, just like in skating. The angle of the ankles and the calves is deep, and the whole upper body is leaning forward to a quite significant extent, and this is what having a fall in the upper body means. When he goes up on the toes, the most important thing to notice is the direction of the jump. He is jumping more in the direction of travel, rather than straight up and down. This detail is extremely important. The heel lift will not have the same effect if you're moving more up and down. Klæbo has the pressure in the front of the shoe, and all the force is going in the right direction. The up-on-toe move is, as you can see, very pronounced when the speed is high. This is absolutely the correct way of movement in order to generate the necessary momentum for maximum force development. To simplify, you should think, when I go up on the toes, I should jump forward and not upwards. Detail number 2. Activation of the abdominal muscles. A detail that can make a big difference when sprinting and double poling is being able to activate the muscles in the center of the body. Klæbo has an excellent connection with his core musculature. It's not only about being able to utilize these muscles, but also about the timing of when you activate them. Klæbo's timing is also a 10 out of 10. You should create this connection before you start to use your arms. If the activation comes too late, it will just result in a bad timing. The way to do it is to kind of feel your abdominal muscles right before each stroke. You shouldn't flex them hard in an unnatural way, but make sure they get the neurological activation necessary to generate the most power. If you're only pushing with the arms, it will not only make you tired way faster, but it will also limit the amount of power you'll be able to generate. I have actually tested this on the ski erg myself. Over a long period, I tested many 10-second sprints where I tried to achieve peak power output, and I found out, every time I managed to create this connection with the abs, I was able to reach at least 15 to 20 watts higher than I did without focusing on it. Most skiers understand how important it is to utilize these muscles in competitions with longer durations because this region has a higher concentration of slow twitch muscle fibers, but it's actually very important also when sprinting. It's quite logical actually. The more musculature you're able to activate, the amount of total power generated will drastically increase. Even though it's important to use the core musculature, it's still important to have a certain degree of elasticity in this region. How you should use these muscles when double poling is widely misunderstood among coaches and skiers. You shouldn't be totally stiff and have this constant pressure and tense flexing of the abs, the way many coaches tend to say. The core musculature should first be activated, and you should also use the elasticity in this region to jump forward and manage to reach a longer distance per stroke. This won't be possible if the whole center of the body is totally stiff and intentionally locked and flexed. Additionally, if your abs and back muscles are too tight, it will also limit this ability of being able to stretch out the movements the way you can see Klæbo does in this clip. This can be fixed through stretching of the critical muscles. Strength training with the goal of better neuromuscular control of the center of the body is also essential to be able to achieve maximum performance through optimal utilization of the whole upper body. Arm, elbow, and pole position. Klæbo has also in double poling this characteristic wide arm position, with the elbows being quite high, although the arm position when skating and when double poling in higher speed is not quite the same. In V2 skating, the arms are very close to the body viewed from the side. When he's sprinting and double poling in high speed, however, the arms will often be somewhat further away from the chest, viewed from the side, which is natural when trying to maximizing the speed, as you can see in this clip, even though the arms still are relatively close to the body viewed from the side. In these types of sprinting situations, the elbows will often be pushed more forward in a more aggressive position, optimal for maximizing both the power and the length of each stroke. When the goal is to sprint as fast as possible, it's important to be offensive with the elbows. His elbows have a certain bending, but they still look relatively stiff and locked. This marginal bending of the elbows is optimal when sprinting. The poles are also being planted into the snow in an almost vertical position, and quite close to the bindings viewed from the front. This matters and is one of the reasons why it looks so clean. Viewed from the front, if the poles are planted into the snow with an angle that is sort of slanted, then some power will be lost there every single stroke, which over time will cause you to lose time. Try to avoid putting the poles into the ground at an angle, but rather as straight as possible. This goes for both the whole pole and the basket at the end of the pole. In flatter terrain viewed from the side, one can notice the end piece of Klæbo's poles being planted into the snow a certain distance in front of the bindings, which in general is a sign of an efficient double poling technique. He doesn't extend the arms too far behind the body, but cuts of the motion roughly when they pass the hips. Not always, but sometimes he will have this marginal drop movement of the poles, which means he has this slight tendency to let go of the poles. In other clips, it can look like he holds the poles with more tense hand movements. He has a very quick repositioning phase. If you're using too much time on the repositioning because you're sitting too much, it will cost you a lot of time and energy. One of the reasons why he avoids this unnecessary long repositioning is also because he has the pressure forward in the shoe, and the whole body is leaning forward in this pronounced forward fall. He keeps the hips in a high position, or pushed forward. Despite the upper body leaning forward, he has a very high starting position, which is optimal because he brings the whole center of body mass up. Sometimes it can look like one of the feet is just in front of the other foot. This was something Northug also used to do when sprinting. Johannes isn't always using this technique, but it will become present in specific situations, like when he's sprinting. In lower speeds, his feet will be more evenly balanced next to each other. When skating, it's noticeable that he has continuous and fluid movements, and it could remind you a bit of a wheel. In double poling, it's somewhat the same pattern. There are no stops in the motions, and it looks very smooth and even, without any choppy movements. Klæbo is known for skiing with a high cadence in skating. His cadence is high, also in double poling, even though it doesn't look significantly higher than the rest. His cadence might be slightly higher, but the main reason why he moves so much faster when sprinting is because of the longer distance he is able to reach per repetition. He manages to do it because of a mix between technical and physical abilities. To summarize, what makes Johannes Høsflot Klæbo's double poling so extraordinary? The most important things are that he jumps forward rather than up and down, he has an extreme fall in the upper body, he manages to activate and utilize the core musculature, and has an exceptional control of the center of the body. Overall, the positions look to be absolutely perfect, with the poles being put into the snow almost vertically, and it looks super clean and polished. His technical skills in double poling is close to perfection. In this specific technique, there is really nothing worth to criticize, and this is truly a 10 out of 10. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.